So, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about like your journey in school, what you studied and whatnot, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Aaron Davis, and I'll start from the beginning, right? A degree in finance and entrepreneurship from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Um, in getting my degree, I realized very, very quickly that the last thing I wanted to do was work in the industry. So I immediately went into tech. So I started working for a company called Red Arrow, and I joined as their lead market research analyst. So I was the one responsible for whatever tech we were building, whatever we were kind of going
Mhm.
towards as a company, really kind of honing in on the product market fit that we were going after. So a lot of competitive analysis, a lot of pricing research, a lot of just
Mhm.
crafting the narrative, making sure that it was as solid as it possibly could be. Uh,
Mhm.
there, and it was actually through the University Innovation Fellows Program that I really developed a real passion for social enterprise, right? So
Mhm.
not just the commercial activities, but making sure that through good design and just through good strategy, that you could
Mhm.
achieve commercial goals as well as social goals.
Mhm.
So the company at the time, we had a larger kind of parent company over us, and they had just started a social enterprise division, right, an investment
Mhm.
fund be doing a lot of that work. So I jumped at the chance to work with a visionary leader. Her name was Deanna Singh. And
Oh,
I jumped in.
nice.
So I was working on the investment side, really working on developing business plans and operational plans for
Mhm.
nonprofits looking to add a sustainable piece of their business, right? Who are looking to kind of introduce a more business enterprise lens, which was awesome. And I was there for
Mhm.
18 months. A lot of incredible work, worked with a group called Stars, built out kind of the operating model for what that would look like. Ultimately left the organization. They went through some changes. I went through some changes. Did community organizing for a little bit. Worked with a nonprofit called Black Sheep, and built out what their international strategy would look like. And at
Mhm.
that time, I found a tech company based in New York called Alpha. And even just till recently, that's my most recent gig. Was working with their head of community. So I was running their program for startups, for authors, for social innovators, really for people who were building the future, right? Who are actively working on something new, and using our
Mhm.
technology form of consumer insights experimentation to help them work through what ideas they were going to take to market.
Mhm. That's crazy. You started as finance and now you've been in so many different roles. Could you touch more on how you said the University Innovation Fellows program kind of like helped you realize what you want to do, like what direction?
Man, where do I start?
I
Uh,
know.
you as an organization, it's just like part of my story was it was so I feel like a lot of people in my class, people that I was interacting with, we're very just business minded, right? We're very sort of driven towards how do I learn the tips, the tricks, the tools, the strategies to make my shareholders as wealthy and as rich as possible, which
Hmm.
is not a bad goal, right? There needs to be sustainability, scalability, what you do as an organization, as a human being. We need to find something that we enjoy doing that works, and
Hmm.
I think uh, admirable. What what UIF really taught me was the tenets of good. Um, that in and of itself, the ability to develop something that would speak to customers, that would speak to users, that always had a human, had an empathetic, had a compassionate lens to it, and not just had that for the sake of having it, but
Hmm.
had that for the sake of making sure that we could design for it and innovate for it, was huge because it didn't tell me to focus on one lens. It didn't tell me to pick a career path and stick with it. It gave me a set of tools that I could really use however I wanted, and that was
Hmm.
amazing, right. And the way that I leverage those tools um, is really towards community building, but not just community building, but towards the building of better technology products, of better services that service today about a third of the Fortune 100, which again is incredible.
Hmm. That's awesome. And so through all of your experiences, how did you handle like all these transitions, all this ambiguity and jumping around? Like what did that feel like and how did you like work through those feelings?
I've even been thinking about this very recently.
Hmm.
I have uh, really not by by my own means, but just by the part of it. I've gone to a lot of organizations in a very short career. So, I've seen companies get spun up. I've seen massive amounts of money invested. I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
1,000 employees leave a business. C-suite leaders come and go. There's just been a lot of organization. Um, and really what it teaches you is, one, to be self-sustainable, right? Is to know the value that you bring to the organization, and know what you're doing. It works within what the organization is, right? So I'll give you an example. I was working at this investment group where we had, a good chunk of money, a fair chunk of money. And what I was doing was a very tactical job, right? It was work with this company, discover what they do incredibly well, and find a way for them to introduce a business model that will make them money and make them a sustainable business, right? Now, there was massive change that was happening in every direction, right? There were decisions that were being, made without my involvement. There were, tectonic plates that were shifting, and in some ways, you need to be okay with that. And what made me okay with that is knowing that I was doing um, what I knew was right and what was needed incredibly well. And that really speaks to just the mastery that you can have as a professional, right? Knowing that there's always going to be massive changes. But the one thing that you can always count on is a mastery of your craft and knowing that you can do it incredibly well. Now, the empowering thing is if you have a mastery of your craft and if you do what you do incredibly well, it's an intangible asset that you keep with you forever, right? And that can never take away from you. So regardless of if you find yourself in a toxic work environment, if you find yourself in a company that lets you go, if you find yourself in an organization that isn't allowing you to develop, the fact that you've mastered your craft and committed to your craft allows you to really do whatever you want.
Thank you for that. I needed to hear that right now. I feel like that really helps with confidence, and a lot of people a lot of the reasons why they don't maybe switch jobs or switch fields is because they're not confident in their capabilities. But like you said, like if you master your craft, like you can go anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And part of it is figuring out what your craft is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking from a standpoint that I 100% do not have all these, right?
Yeah.
More of like someone who recognizes the need for it, but is still honing their craft. I'm still fairly early in my career,
Mm-hmm.
but the ability to kind of sit with your, even on like a Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, and think through what are the moments not only where I have had the best day, but that someone has said what you did was incredibly valuable and incredibly impactful, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've all had those exact moments. I mean, Tara, knowing you for a long time, there have been very pointed things that you've done that are incredibly impactful, right?
Thank you.
Really to recognize what those are is not only a professional development thing, but it allows you as a person to know that what you're doing is not in vain. It isn't going unnoticed, and that it is valuable, whatever it is. It could be software dev, it could be something technical, something non-technical. It could just be who you are as an individual. That's all a piece of your craft. But recognizing that you have one and that it's always developing.
Thank you. So, going off of all of this, I want to ask the last question of what is one piece of advice that you would maybe go back and give yourself as you were graduating or maybe as you were transitioning through all these positions that you would give to people today?
Let's see.
Think of little finance Aaron, and what advice would you give him?
um, uh, Little finance. Very different. Um, let me tell you a story real quick. And I
Mm-hmm.
think so. I recently had a conversation with a mentor of mine. He ran content partnership for a long time, and I jumped on the phone with him really just for a professional development conversation. It was, you know, what do I need to do to be kind of where you are, right? It's looking at someone who has had a very successful career, but has done so with empathy and compassion and just
Mm-hmm.
he's the type of person that you want to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's someone that you look up to, not as a professional, but as just a great guy, right? Um, and he told me kind of this journey that he was on, where he had honed in his days at Google, at YouTube, where he would
Mm-hmm.
only 2.5 hours a day, and
Wow.
like instantly, like alarm bells as a 26-year-old professional went off in head, right? Because even in the gig that I had previously, I'm working insane hours, and I feel like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us are insane hours. And the he told me that not to say, Aaron, slack off in your job, but he
Mm-hmm.
said, hey, what I identified was exactly what I needed to exactly what I needed to do to satisfy the role that had been put in front of me. And
Mm-hmm.
he didn't get got promoted over and over. Right? And again, that's less important, but the piece of advice that I would give young Aaron is don't carry the weight of the world on your shoulders unnecessarily, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our shoes, they want the best for everyone around them, right? And that not only includes the people in their immediate circle, but for the world at large, right? And that weight, that pressure, um, is something it's important, right? Because we have this sense to do well and to have an impact on people, but in a lot of ways, it's an unnecessary weight to carry around every single day, right?
Mm-hmm.
The piece of advice I would I would give my younger self is to realize for for the man that I want to be, for the professional that I want to be, and for the role that I play in whatever company I've chosen to be a part of,
Mm-hmm.
recognize it, do it incredibly well, and let the rest of it float away, right? Because that will allow for your mental health and well-being to stay in check, but it
Yes.
will really make sure that you're making an impact you
Mhm.
want.
Awesome.